another episode of the Doing Your Own podcast, and today I have a very special guest with me, former ROH World Champion, Jaylito.
Well, thank you. I'm a little nervous. I heard you ask the real tough questions.
Was it?
Do you?
We got some questions.
Okay, all right. Let's see. I'm ready. Let's see what you got.
Okay, so how are you doing today?
You know what? No one has asked me that all day. I'm doing pretty good. I love coming to Las Vegas, mainly because of the weather. I live in Tampa, Florida, where it's always warm most of the time. I can't stand the cold weather. It's pretty warm here, so anytime I'm in a warm place, I love it. So I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. Cool.
Okay, so just starting off here. So were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Oh man, that saying yes would probably be an understatement. My parents had 6 kids, 4 boys, 2 girls. Even my grandfather loved wrestling. I wasn't born yet, but there's a story of my grandpa wrestling my older brother, and he actually hurt my older brother with some wrestling move that he was trying. But yeah, I loved wrestling, and I think in the beginning it might have been that I just wanted to do what my older brothers were doing, and they loved wrestling and they were always watching it on television. So I think that may have started my love for professional wrestling, but then it just kept growing after that. I had so many action figures. Whenever I made any kind of money by helping my dad do this or cutting the lawn or doing my chores, I would ask my brother or my mom or my dad to take me to Kmart or wherever the nearest toy store was so that I could buy the latest action figure.
Okay, so who were you a fan of?
Oh, I was a fan of everybody, but mainly, let's see, I had a couple favorites. There was the Macho Man Randy Savage. There was Ric Flair. I was a huge Bret Hart fan. At a certain point, I became a very large Chris Benoit fan. I still don't think anybody can touch him technically. So those were my 4 go-tos. And then, of course, I was a big Ultimate Warrior fan. I liked Warrior more than Hulk Hogan. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I was a fan of everybody. I don't think there was a single wrestler that I didn't like. I loved everybody, but those were my main ones.
So how did you get started in wrestling?
How did I get started? I got started in professional wrestling because I won a contest. And I was one of the winners, and I got trained for free to become a professional wrestler. The name of the promotion that ran that contest was called Jersey All Pro Wrestling. So I won their contest. They trained me for about 6 months until their school closed down, but I was already wrestling on shows, and I continued my training elsewhere. But yeah, that's how I got my start in wrestling. I won a contest for Jersey All Pro Wrestling, and look where I am now. By the way, there were 4 winners of that contest, and I'm the only one wrestling today. I know, it's amazing. What a story, right? I won a contest to be trained for free. It's wild.
So, who was your first match against?
My first match was against another trainee at the wrestling school. His real name was Will, but his wrestling name was Rainchild. And the funky thing about that was we were the same age. We both were winners of the contest. So we just naturally were paired together. Now, on my very first show ever, I wrestled against him. My second show ever, I tagged with him. My third show ever, I wrestled against him. My 4th show, I tagged with him. The 5th show, I wrestled against, and that went on for almost a whole year. So my first year of matches were either tagging with Will or wrestling against him. So, sadly enough, with wrestling, we get to meet a lot of cool and interesting people, like I got to meet you. But for some reason, sometimes in wrestling, your career or life takes you on a certain path, and unfortunately, I haven't spoken to Will or seen him in, I can't remember when the last time I talked to him. That's one of the sad parts about wrestling. And I'm sure if I saw him today or next time I see him, we'll just pick right up where we left off, and you would have thought that a gap hadn't existed. You would have thought that we just saw each other the day before, which is, I think that's so cool about wrestling. Once you make friends in wrestling, it's like this bond that it's hard to break that bond. So hopefully if Will sees this, hopefully we see each other soon.
Hope you do. So how long have you been with Ring of Honor?
That's a great question. So, this is my second trip, my second run here in Ring of Honor, because the first time I was in Ring of Honor was in 2003 to 2005 or 6. And then at 2005 or 6 is when I went to Impact Wrestling, and I was there for about 6 years, 7 years maybe. And then once I left there, I came back to Ring of Honor in 2011. So I've been back in Ring of Honor since 2011. And one of the coolest things about coming back here is getting to see the growth of this company. When I was here in 2004 and 5, none of those faces, except for the Briscoes, none of those faces are here now. So it's cool to see the evolution, all the new faces when I got back, guys that I'd never heard of, and which is surprising to me because somebody that I never heard of, shocking me. I'm like, wow, how have I never heard of this guy? But for me, when I'm in a wrestling company, I'm kind of in the bubble of that company because all I can think about is the growth and the promotion of that particular company. I'm just excited that now that mental focus is being focused here in Ring of Honor because I really love this place. I love the locker room. I've had the pleasure to be in a few different locker rooms, and I can honestly say out of all the locker rooms I've ever been in, this one is my favorite. Yeah.
You love it, you're here.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so do you have some of the best advice that you have ever received in being a professional wrestler?
What is the best advice I've ever received for being a professional wrestler? Ooh. Professional wrestlers love to talk, and we love to give advice. Now, I've received plenty of tips over the years. Some worked for me, some didn't. But I'd like to think that even the ones that didn't work for me helped me in some way because I learned that, hey, that way doesn't work for me, or that way is not going to do it for me. But when it comes to the best advice I've ever gotten, wow, I've never been asked. I knew you had the tough questions. They did. The best advice I've ever received. See, I used to think that the best advice I ever received was make sure you have a fallback plan in case wrestling doesn't work. That used to be what everyone said, most of the people. And I thought for the time being, when I was hearing that in 2004 and 5, that was great advice. And it still is great advice today. But I don't value it the same as I valued it before. And then, maybe 6-7 years ago, I was speaking with Terry Taylor, and he told me, he said, in professional wrestling, you have to understand that the owner and the owner of the company, he's like a coach. And every coach of every football team or sports team, they have their favorites. And they're going to put those favorites in the game to play. But eventually, those coaches change, and then we have to have new favorites. So if you're not the favorite of that particular coach, don't worry, don't let that get to you, because you're just waiting for the time where there's a new coach and he finds you to be his favorite player and he puts you in the game. And I think so far that has been the one that I've valued the most. Because sometimes as professional wrestlers we can get consumed with, oh, I want to be in the main event. Why is it not me? Why am I not there yet? Instead of focusing on what you're doing and try to make yourself as best as you possibly can be. So that's probably the best advice I've ever had so far. But who knows? Years from now, I may have heard something else, and I think that this advice that I got was just okay. Yeah. That was a good question. That one made me think. That was a tough one. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
Okay, so before we ended off here, back in TNA, you had some stuff going with Ric Flair and Macho Man.
I did. Back in Impact Wrestling, I had a few things going on with Ric Flair, and there's a secret thing about the Macho Man that not many people know. So the thing with Ric Flair, which was a dream come true of mine, because I idolized him, which I still do. I love him to death. He's influenced my career so much. Getting to work with him was a dream come true, and it wasn't my idea, it was his idea. He heard that I could do this cool Ric Flair impression, and he decided he wanted to work with me, and I was in heaven. But the Macho Man thing that not many people know, sure, I did the Macho Man character, I was Black Machismo, but what many people don't know is, one day Hulk Hogan came up to me and he said, I saw the Macho Man at the doctor's office. We used to have problems, but we kind of hashed our problems out. And I told him about you, and he's interested to come here and work with you. He just wants to get in better shape. And when he told me that, my brain almost exploded. So, and then Hulk Hogan told me, yeah, we want to do this thing where you film promos with this man that we can't see, and he's in the dark. But this man in the dark, he's telling you to keep getting under Hulk Hogan's skin. Keep making him paranoid. So then I'd keep doing these things where I'd keep scaring Hulk Hogan. Until finally I'd do this promo with the man in the dark, and he steps forward, and it's the Macho Man Randy Savage. And then we beat down Hulk Hogan. And when he was telling me this, I couldn't believe it. Was like going to Disney World for the first time. It was like, I can't wait for Christmas Day when that day comes. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do it, which is very sad, but that would have been the highlight of my career. But yeah, I had a great time in Impact Wrestling. I learned a lot. I got to blossom as a professional wrestler. I learned how to break out of the shell and not be afraid to do things like talk on a microphone in front of a building full of people that you don't know. So yeah, I've got nothing but, I took away nothing but great things from being there. Really helped prepare me for a year. Yeah. Yeah, I love him. Well, thank you for taking the time out to interview me.
Thank you for agreeing and coming back. Okay, so is there any people that follow you on your social media?
Oh man, this is the day and age of social media. Everyone's mom and dad has a social media, a Twitter and a YouTube blog. I don't have a YouTube blog, but I do have Twitter and Instagram. And my Twitter and Instagram are the same username. It's The Lethal J, TheLethalJay. Even my website is thelethaljay.com. So if you ever want to look up anything about Jay Lethal on any social media platform, just type in The Lethal J. Interesting thing about The Lethal J, the reason I turned it into that is because I met Chris Candido. I don't know if you know who that is, but I was a fan of his watching ECW, and he was in WWE as well. But my very first time meeting him ever, he knew who I was. The very first time ever, I walk into a locker room, he's on the show in New York at a show called USA Pro. I walk into the locker room, he's across the locker room, and in my head I go, oh my God, it's Chris Candido, let me go over and say hi to him. And as I get over to say hello to him, I stick my hand out, he goes, ah, it's the Lethal J. And I was like, oh my God, he knows who I am. That was the first thing out of his mouth. That was the first thing he had said to me. Which to me shocked the crap out of me. How does he even know who why would he even care who I was? So after hearing that, every time he'd see me, he'd go, ah, it's the Lethal J. And then I liked the way that sounded. And then he passed away, and there was nobody to say, ah, it's the Lethal J anymore. So then at that time, I made every Twitter handle, my Instagram, my website, everything that is mine on internet is the Lethal J something. So that's why I have that name.
That's cool. That's a great story.
Thank you.
Your stories about that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.